Double picking is an incredibly powerful technique that can add a lot of energy to riffs and solos. I want to break down how to execute this on guitar, but also how it gets used in actual music. If you'd like the tabs and sheet music from this lesson, as well as all of my other lessons, you can join my Patreon or become a channel member here on YouTube. I'm also available for private lessons at the moment if you want some more in-depth personal instruction. Links to all of that is in this video's description. So what is double picking? It's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to pick twice on every single note. So instead of playing a scale like this, I'm going to play it like this. Now, there's a number of things to talk about here, specifically from a technical perspective. To do these really well, we want to be using downward pick slanting, meaning that our upstrokes are going to escape from the string. It's going to make it easier to cross strings. I'm going to use a little power chord here as an example. That's tricky because you have to go back and forth between these two strings really fast. So what we want to do is to angle our pick this direction. If you want some more in-depth instruction on downward pick slanting, go watch the Cracking the Code videos by Troy Grady. Incredible guitar series, one of my favorite of all time. I'm going to give you the short version here. We're basically going to slant our pick this direction. So I'm kind of turning my hand down like this. This is an exaggerated motion, but the upstrokes are going to escape from the string, so I can easily get to the next string. And this is the technique I'm going to be using for all of these examples when I'm double picking. I might do it more exaggerated sometimes it might be a little bit less so, but that's going to be the technique that's being used here, is this downward pick slanting. Here's some exercises I've put together that will help you work on this technique. All of these are available on my Patreon, or if you become a channel member here on YouTube, you can get the sheet music for all of these. The first one is a classic chromatic, what we call the spider exercise. Everyone has done these at some point. The 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to start on just one string, and I'm going to double pick every single note. And what you want to do is start very slow, even slower than I did there, and get the feeling of moving this hand twice as slow as this hand, right? If I'm double picking, my pick is moving twice as fast as my left hand. And if you're used to playing normal alternate picked runs where you're playing one note per pick, your hands are trying to be perfectly synced. And here I'm not trying to sync my hands, right? This hand is moving at this speed. The left hand is going. The right hand is going. And it takes a little bit of getting used to. One thing you can practice is to down pick all of these as one note, because that's basically where your accents are going to lie. When I double pick, all I'm doing is hitting that string on the way back up too. So I can go back and forth between down picking and double picking. And actually, the double picking is easier than just down picking, because when I'm down picking, I have to kind of jump the pick back over to start over again. Whereas if I'm double picking, I'm just going to come right back through the string again. Now we can take this further and do this across multiple strings like you normally would use this chromatic exercise. Typically, you would go all the way up the strings, and we can do that with double picking. Come back down. Now, I'm not really too concerned about how fast I can do this at first. I'm just trying to get my hands in sync and get used to how it feels. Once you do that, you can start to speed it up. Now we can do this playing scales as well. So here's a basic major scale shape. To double pick that. I can do this with a minor pentatonic scale as well. Here's A minor. And next couple of exercises are focused on switching strings. So we're going to use that power chord shape again. And this is going to allow us to really focus on getting from one string to the next. You should experiment with palm muting, especially on the lower strings. If I'm playing a riff like this on the lower strings, I'll often palm mute. I'm not using a ton of distortion here, but it does give you a more aggressive sound to palm mute. Next, we could do an octave, so we're going to skip over a string. That's much more difficult, but worth practicing because it will come up in some riffs. You can do octaves in different places too. Just get used to how it feels. Now let's do a little sequence using a minor 9 chord. We're going to double pick that. That's a really cool sound and a simple example of something I might actually do in a song. Next, I've got some silly examples, but these actually work on this technique pretty well. That was Crazy Train, of course, the main riff of Crazy Train by Ozzy. And that's actually perfect for a double picked thing because most of it is just straight eighth notes. A really nice way to get a handle on this technique. Here's another fun one. That was, of course, Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, and that one is really tricky because you have all of this string skipping. I need to work on that one a little bit more, but it's a great example of taking something that's pretty basic and putting it into this double picking technique. The last exercises here are focused on arpeggios. Just like we did with scales, we can double pick arpeggios. So any sweep picking shape you know, for example, can be double picked. Here's a basic minor shape. Really cool sound. I could do a major shape. I could do 5-string shapes. Here's a little arpeggio sequence I put together to practice this. Sounds at least somewhat musical. Now, one thing that does happen occasionally is you'll get this offset double picked where you'll play. So I'm still playing twice on each note, but I'm starting with just a single note. It's a very classical sounding thing. And in that case, I'd actually need the opposite pick slant, an upward pick slant. So you end up starting each of those double pick notes on an upstroke. So you can experiment with starting these on an upstroke as well. It's a little bit awkward, but worth practicing. But almost all of the time you're going to be using this downward pick slant. Now that I've gone through these exercises, let's take a look at 3 riffs from some prog metal bands.
I almost set the world in my sights.
The first riff we're going to look at is the pre-chorus riff to Oblivion by Mastodon. This is a nice, simple riff. It's quick enough that it's hard to do, but it only deals with 2 different strings. The album version is in drop C. I'm just in drop D here, but it looks like this. So this is all coming out of natural minor, C natural minor, in this case D because I'm in drop D. So we're pedaling off that low string. I guess I think of this as being like a G minor type sound or a B flat sound. Those are the notes, and this is all palm muted. In 6/8 here. And then the second part is this. Once again, this D minor type sound. And those parts just go back and forth. A really great riff and a good one to work on your double picking with.
I almost set the world in my sights.
Next up is this section from Thrive by the Contortionist. Now, I've been meaning to talk about the Contortionist for a long time. Specifically, this album, Language, was one of my favorites. And I am still planning on doing a full breakdown of one of the songs from the album. So maybe let me know in the comments which song you'd like to see me do. This is quite a bit more difficult than the Mastodon riff, and it's dealing with a really weird odd time signature. It's a great example of double picking through an odd time signature. I'll explain the rhythms after we look at the riff slowly. So we're using an E major 7 type shape here. They're actually tuned down a half step, so you would play it 1 fret higher. That's what I have written on the tab. I'm still in standard tuning here, so I'm just going to do it here where it is on the album key. Same shapes, just 1 fret higher if you want to play along with the album and you're in the actual tuning. The pattern here is 7, 7, and then 3, or 7 and then 10, for a total of 17 eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's your first pattern. Then you do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you tack on 3 notes. 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or a total of 17 eighth notes. So without the double picking, now this is mostly palm muted here. Later on in the song it gets opened up, but we're going to palm mute here in this first part. That was roughly close to album tempo. So you can see it flies by pretty quickly. So this is incredibly difficult from a technical perspective. That double picking is really challenging, but it's also hard from a rhythmic perspective and kind of trying to remember where you are as you're playing this. Now, in the part that I played at the beginning, the pattern switches up just a tiny bit after 2 repeats. So the first one, and then that happens again, and then the third and fourth time you move your pinky up 1 fret on the D string. It doesn't really change the feeling of this pattern very much. You just have to stretch that pinky out a little farther. And it kind of alternates with that first one and then that second one. I love this riff and I love this song, and this is probably my favorite part of this song, and a lot of it has to do with the energy that this double picking is adding to this riff. Lastly, I've got the 7-string out. We're going to take a look at this riff from Song of Solomon by Animals as Leaders off their first album. Now, Tosin plays an 8-string now, but the first Animals as Leaders album was all on a 7-string, and this is in standard tuning. Now, I'm playing this the way that Tosin was playing it on the EMG live video from about 15 years ago. It sounds pretty close to the album. I found some tabs that had some different things in there, but I really watched exactly where Tosin's hands were placed and listened to how it was being played, and this is what I came up with. It starts with the hardest part of the riff, and that's this double picking section. So we're spelling out a G sharp minor 9. And you have this massive string skip, which is incredibly hard to do. The album tempo is 170 beats per minute. So if you can get that move down, then you'll be able to play this riff. It is difficult because it keeps going over and over again. What I really like about this riff is that it's mixing the double picking with a bunch of other stuff. So the other riffs we've looked at so far are just double picking, which is cool. You get a lot of energy, but it's fun to mix this with different things. So after he does that, it is moving into chords, and that's a E minor 9 kind of shape. So he's really going between G sharp minor and E minor. Very cool modal mixture sort of a sound. The second repeat, this part's the same. Get these high kind of double stops, which he kind of rakes into. And more E minor. Then you get the riff again. Another double stop. And then you get these crazy major 9 arpeggios, C major 9. I'm not sure exactly how he's picking it. I'm picking it kind of like this. So there's a lot of stuff happening here. You have this really difficult string skipped double picked part. You have these big chords, some weird offbeat rhythms. You have this big sweeping thing. All of this combined to make a pretty weird and wild riff. But one of my personal favorites from this first Animals as Leader song, and I think that double picking part always stuck out to me. And when I was going to make this lesson, this was the first one on my list. I was like, this has to be in this lesson. I kind of wish I didn't put it on here because I didn't realize how incredibly difficult it was to play. I think my cover at the beginning was not incredibly clean. I should have spent a little more time on it. But I absolutely love this riff, and there's a lot to learn here. So there's a deep dive into the technique of double picking. Try this out on some of your own riffs and let me know how it goes. And if you enjoyed this lesson, subscribe, hit the bell notification, like, comment, share, and I'll see you all in the next video. Till then, stay proggy.